think we heard Steve there already.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm all good, sir.
I think the last time we had you in Amsterdam, we had you in the prison.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I didn't even do anything wrong.
Bias. How have you been doing since?
I've been doing well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of work, and yeah, I hope to come over and see you again.
Yeah, hopefully
not too distant future.
Yeah. Let me shortly introduce you for the readers. I'm pretty sure most people know you. Steve Cavanagh wrote one standalone book called Twisted, Verdraaid in Dutch. And he's best known for his series with main character Eddie Flynn. For us, it's 7 volumes going. 13 and 50/50 are standout titles. And just last week, we published The Devil's Advocate, Advocaat van de duivel. The 7th book in the series. Congratulations on this Dutch edition. Very happy to have it out.
Thank you very much. Very happy to have it out with you.
What can you tell us about Eddie Flynn?
Eddie Flynn, well, he's an interesting character. Eddie used to be a con artist and then became a trial lawyer. And he uses all of the old techniques and skills that he used when he was a con artist in the courtroom, except Eddie will only represent someone if he believes that they're innocent. So, and as the series has gone on, he has sort of accumulated a group of misfits around him who are sort of loosely a team. And this is how this book opens. Eddie is representing someone. This was the first book that's set outside of New York. So Eddie is representing a young African-American man in Alabama who is accused of murder. And Alabama is a death penalty state. So if he loses the case, his client will be executed. So it's a high stakes courtroom drama with lots of other elements in it.
You just mentioned Eddie Flynn working in the United States. Of course, most of the books are set in New York. If I'm not mistaken, the first books you've written with Eddie Flynn, at that time you had never been to New York yourself. Is that right?
That's right. I wrote the first 3 books without ever having been to the United States
How
at
did you
all.
get with that?
Yeah.
Talking about being a con artist.
Yeah, exactly. I got away with it.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Miami Vice and Hill Street Blues.
Never heard anybody saying this guy has never been to New York. How did you pull it off?
I don't know. I watched a lot of American TV shows, and American movies, and I read American crime fiction. So the American vernacular in that voice is quite close to an Irish voice, I think. So yeah, it was easy for me to grab little bits of that vernacular and invent it. Plus, New York is such an iconic city. Everyone knows what New York looks like anyway, because you've seen it on TV as often as I have. So all I have to do is to give you that sense of the city and not get in the way of your own view of New York, and then it's all good.
That's true. Of course, you're a lawyer yourself. How does that relate to the American legal system, the law you practice?
Well, I'm now a recovering lawyer. I've left the legal profession now.
Yeah.
So I'm a full-time writer now.
Yeah.
So I did civil cases mostly, civil rights work. I did some criminal work, and really, I mean, there are some differences in procedures. Obviously, the American legal system is much more unfair than the British legal system or Irish legal system. Not that that's very fair either, but the American legal system is much more terrifying. And it's very much a 2-tier system. There are those who can afford to get a decent lawyer, and there are those who can't. And those who can't really are in real serious trouble. So it fascinates me because obviously I'm very passionate about civil rights and human rights, and the American legal system terrifies me. I tend to write about things that scare me. And this book in particular, there are real elements taken from this book, which some people think are fantastical. They're actually real. And I've taken them from reality and put them straight into this book.
And why is it that you seek out those elements of our existence and our society?
Well, I think they're fascinating, and I think a a lot of people don't know about them. So in this book, the death penalty in the United States is driven by personalities, really. It's not driven by policy or politics. Personalities drive it. When Trump was president, the federal execution rate went up, like 200% or something. And that's because he wanted to do that. I found a research paper, but before I did that, I was looking through the New York Times, and I found an article about a district attorney's office in Lafayette County in Louisiana, and they prosecute death penalty cases. And as a junior lawyer, when you've done your first death penalty case, you are given a gift by the office. They give you a paperweight little desk statue of an electric chair. And that's put on your desk. That's your present, because they say you've done something well. There's an amazing research done by the Marshall Project, which is a non-profit organization that tracks injustices in America. They did this fabulous study of prosecutors. And what they found is that almost 20% of the death row population in the United States was put there by 5 prosecutors' offices. 5 people. Now, to give you an idea of scale, there are, God, I don't know how many, maybe 1,300, 1,400 counties. 5 counties, but 20% of the people there in death row population. That's because these people are obsessed with the death penalty. It's an absolute sickness. They have a wide discretion what is and what isn't a death penalty case. And these people, as terrifying as it may seem, they night and day, they work to get people executed for their own satisfaction. And wow. That's real. I'm not making that up. Right. The character of Randall Corn in this book is taken straight from reality and put straight into this book. In fact, I had to tone elements of him down to make him more realistic, because if I put the real truth in there, some people just wouldn't be able to believe it.
Once again, truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes.
A question from the audience. Marie-José asked, this ties in, did you use cases from the past in writing your books?
Not any of my cases, no. I know some lawyers do that. I've always felt uncomfortable with that. Someone comes to me with a problem, that's confidential between me and them. It's not for me to share or exploit. I will take sometimes real examples that are in the public domain of cases, and that might inspire me to do 1 or 2 things, small things in a book. But I've never taken a real case wholesale and put it in a book. I have taken characters, perhaps, like the prosecutor in this case, Randall Corn, and he's sort of an amalgam of real prosecutors who existed and really did run these death penalty cases. So yeah, I'm sometimes inspired like that, but I never take a case wholesale.
No, and Jacqueline asked, why did you stop practicing law? Was it maybe because we just asked Mike if his was it starting writing books a dream come true? Was it the same for you? Was it something you always?
It was. I tell you what, my wife told me to stop it because for about 7 years I was getting up at 6 a.m., getting the kids ready for school, going and doing a full-time job, coming home at 7 or 8 at night, seeing my family for a very short time, and then when they go to bed around 10 or 11. And then I would start writing, and I would write for 3 or 4 hours. So, and I did that, 6 days a week, or 5, 6 days a week. So you can only sustain that for so long, and it was starting to affect my health. And my wife said, you need to choose one or the other. And the books were going quite well. And especially a book I wrote called 13, which really took off in the UK and elsewhere.
It did in Holland, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I thought, well, look, okay, I'm going to have a go at this. And that was 2019. So I said, I quit law, and I've been writing ever since and never looked back.
And here we are. A practical question. can you read the books in a random order?
Yes, they're all written that way that you can read them as standalones in any order. Most people start reading my books at either 13 or 50/50, or even the latest one that's published. There are lots of my reviews on Amazon and Goodreads. People pick up one of the books and said, "Oh, I have no idea this was a series." And it worked as a complete novel for me. And now I'm going to go back and explore the rest. So they work as total standalone stories, and you can start anywhere.
But there is a line to follow in the life of Eddie Flynn.
There is a bit of a line. So if you read them in order, you might have a slightly different experience, but not by no means a better experience than someone who read them out of order.
Completely agree. Completely agree. So, Advocaat van Duivel, if you have to start anywhere, that's a good choice. I